Hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of the Yoga Crew podcast. I'm your host today, Serene, and we have a special guest today. So, we'll be chatting a little bit today about the online world of yoga and how a virtual studio like Kuula TV is helping us yoga teachers to continue to teach online. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to Mariel Witmond, a well-established yoga teacher and co-founder of Kuula TV. Hi, Mariel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Really
How
happy to
are
be here.
you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm excited to have this chat.
Yeah.
Great. And we have the rest of the yoga crew today, Maria and Alessia.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mariel.
So how are you guys doing? How is the new year treating you?
Whoa, heavy question.
Where we start?
Yeah, it's one. I taught a class today, and I was like, guys, we made it through the second week of the new year, and it blows my mind every time I say something like that because I swear it feels like we're in March. It's been full on. It's
For me, like 2020 was like a blink. You know, when you just open your eyes and you close and, you're suddenly in 2021.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
just one of these years.
Yeah, I can
Well,
relate for sure.
it's great to have you. I mean, it's the third episode of the Yoga Crew podcast, and it's great that you actually are our first guest, Mariel. So we're
I'm
so
honored.
about that. Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much for joining us. To be honest, Kuula TV has been, I mean, I signed up, before summer, before actually becoming a yoga teacher. So I'm really honored to have you here. I'm also very impressed because I love the platform. It's just amazing. So yeah, just give a bit of background to our listeners. Most of them are yoga teachers, and a lot of them also new yoga teachers. So I think it will definitely help them. And just to give a bit of background, so Kuula TV, you co-founded the company during the pandemic, actually. And it was at the time that everyone had to switch their classes, their yoga classes online. So yeah, if you can give us a bit of your background, because you are a yoga teacher for many years now. And you go Kuula.
Yeah, so Kuula was born of a passion project, really. So as a yoga teacher, one of the big challenges that I was facing, so before I had my daughter, about 2 years, almost 3 years ago now, I was quite keen on taking my teaching online. So pre-COVID, there seemed to be a relative divide between teachers that were very much focused on the in-person environment, and then almost what you'd call your influencer, which I tread lightly when I say these things because obviously in the yoga community, they hold a lot of weight. But I think pre-COVID, the online world was dominated by the influencer. And I think it was to a degree viewed as anti-yogic because, the ego and popularity and I think maybe a lot of it came from people that were passionate about yoga, but perhaps not teaching yoga for a very long time, etc. For me, the reason I always knew I wanted to have an online presence was twofold. One, I wanted a broader audience. So I was saying this before, but I'm half Mexican. I lived 10 years in the US. I would love to cater to a community that's not limited by location. But more than that, I felt that I wanted to build a community online. And I wanted, at this point, I was really exploring YouTube with the belief that if I could earn money through a platform like YouTube, through advertising, then maybe I wouldn't have to charge my students. So I feel very passionate about giving back and being able to be as inclusive as possible. And my dream was if businesses that have the money could pay me, then maybe my students who don't have as much money wouldn't have to. So anyways, that was my thought process back then. Obviously, the reality versus the idea tends to be, quite far. So I started the YouTube journey recording my classes. So I would teach a sequence every week. I would record that sequence. I would break it up into pieces and I'd put it up on YouTube. I have been doing YouTube for about 3 years on and off. I'm not that big, but back then I was quite frequent with my posts. I've got close to about 4,000 followers on YouTube, but let me tell you, you don't make a lot of money on YouTube unless you hit certain thresholds. So again, my thought process of like, you know, company, like I'll be making money off of advertising, didn't really come to fruition, but it was my foot in the door with the online world. And what I realized at that point was that I wanted a platform where I could monetize my expertise. I was giving away so much content for free that it just wasn't sustainable, and the return on my investment just wasn't there. So the beginning of Kuula started off as this passion project where I met John, who's my co-founder, through my husband, who's our third founder. And we just got to talking about the future of yoga. And I had explained my pain points. I feel like there are very high burnout rates amongst teachers, and it's a struggle, if I'm honest. I think we come into teaching because we love it, but we really struggle to understand how to make a business out of it. And the whole yogic philosophy also weighs us down in the sense that we struggle to charge for our services because of what it is that we do. So we're underpaid, notoriously. Studios, unfortunately, have underpaid teachers for a long time. And what ends up happening is you teach 20 classes in a week, and you lose the love of what you're doing. I went through that. I really don't know any teacher that hasn't gone through finding the balance of how to do what you love, but to not lose that passion while you're doing it, because you're just going at it so hard. So with John, we talked about like the far future, like wearable technology. We talked about computer learning. You know, there's so many videos of people doing yoga that surely you could get sort of computer learning to either identify postures as you're teaching a class. So sometimes you can't get a full 360 angle of someone teaching. We have lots of crazy ideas. So this is how it started. This was February of last year, and John, who happens to also be a producer, a musician, was watching what was happening in the world of DJs. And a lot of them were starting to stream online. And he started exploring live streaming and realized that there was a great opportunity based on what I needed and the tools that he saw available in the industry. So we started working on a platform that allowed teachers, aka me, to upload on-demand content that they could charge for and also stream live. This was pre-COVID. So we actually had the idea and we started building it pre-COVID.
Wow.
I flew out to Mexico for a 2-week holiday to introduce my 1-year-old to my extended family. And COVID hit, world went into lockdown, and we made the rather difficult decision to stay in Mexico. I was 5 months in Mexico building Kuula from afar. And it was fascinating because while we were sitting on this product, we were watching the industry unravel and try to figure out what to do. So some people were fast, some people were not. And again, it's so fascinating because you have to understand that there was that divide between people that felt comfortable going online and people that were like, this is just not what I signed up for. Like this is, and also we didn't know how long this was going to last. So there was a lot of resistance. There was a lot of free Instagram lives because people were panicking, and it's like, let me just try to get my community excited. And I mean, so many Instagram lives, I can't even tell you. I did tons of them. And then it gradually transitioned to Zoom, and people started to find something that worked, but it was never ideal. It was clunky. Most people were using a booking system, Acuity or Bookwen. We're linking it to Zoom. We're linking it to their website. We're telling students to sign up. Students have to sign up time and time again. They have to fill out their name, fill out their email, pay for something, sign up for the class. And we realized that there was a huge opportunity to simplify the process, to streamline it, to make it professional. And as a teacher, my big thing with Kuula is that I genuinely believe that we are stronger together. And I want to empower teachers so that they don't have to worry about the admin, about the tech, about all the things that our teacher training did not prepare us for. Yeah. Because I mean, literally like microphones not working and lighting.
And I think we all hate it, right? We all hate it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. But it's that reality. And I think it's like this with anything in life. You're not alone. Any teacher out there that's watching that's like, oh my God, this is a struggle. man, it's been a struggle for all of us. I can't tell you how many times I recorded and it wasn't recording, how many times I taught a class and my mic wasn't working or the music wasn't on. Everything happens. Like the internet dies, you're freaking out because you lost Zoom. It's not easy. So to add to all of that, the fact that we're just trying to get by and trying to grow as teachers, and for all the teachers that got certified in the midst of COVID, there's a big fat question mark about how to establish yourself as a teacher without the help of studios. Studios were your foot in the door. If you got into a studio, you nailed it. You got on the cover list. That was kind of like the dream for a new teacher. Whereas now in the online world, it's twofold. I will say the opportunity is huge because you can really grab the reins, put yourself out there, and if you think about what it was like before, you had to rent a church hall and go knocking on doors and hand out flyers or something. Whereas now there's a huge cost saving to that, but there's a big cost add-on in terms of the admin, the amount that we have to market ourselves. So what I genuinely believe, and where I think Kuula went from being a passion project to being a funded business, is I'm watching, I don't want to go too, I know I can go forever, so if you guys want to stop me, because I'm sure there's questions in there, but one thing that I really do see, we at Kuula spend a lot of time watching the industry. I mean, we have looked at every competitor's site, we've looked at every teacher that has their own platform, we've looked at all of the sort of patterns in the industry that try to give us a sense of where is yoga going to be tomorrow. In the online world, but also as the world goes back to normal. And one thing that I have noticed is it's in the same way that being a teacher and teaching 20 classes running around a city was not sustainable. Going at it alone in many ways is also not sustainable. It is very hard. It's so much work. You're promoting yourself nonstop. Nobody's got your back. If you don't have something like Kuula that has a support team, you're not going to get a hold of Zoom if something happens. Like, you're not going to get a hold of Bookman or Acuity, or your website falls down. It's a lot of pressure on teachers, and even teachers that are great and have strong communities. And I'll say this from my own personal experience. It's so much work that I don't see it being sustainable long term, because if you are trying to build a community on your own, you got to keep them interested. And I think this is the struggle we're finding with online, is how do you keep people motivated and interested? You can't teach, you can teach 7 days a week in multiple classes, but it's that feeling. And for me, I do yoga part-time because I'm full-time on Kuula. I definitely think there are going to be some very interesting trends in the future, and they're already forming around collaborations. I think there's going to be a lot of studios, for example, that also offer an online offering even when studios open up later. I say this kind of like treading water a little bit, but I think it's quite an exciting time because we are watching history being made in many ways. I think we are at the forefront of a massive shift in everything we knew as normal before. And I think the yoga of tomorrow is going to be incredibly different. I know that we're all longing to go back to studios. We're all longing for the festivals, for the communal breath. I really miss hearing people breathe.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do think the face of how it's done is changing, and probably the most exciting thing, amidst all the struggle and everything else, is yoga teachers have been empowered by what's happened, because, and I'm all for studios. Power Yoga Company is my main studio, and it's like my second home. I will always teach there as long as they'll have me. But something happened when we went online, which was teachers realized how much money they could essentially make online, going, teaching on their own as well as teaching with studios. But it opened up an opportunity where you now have direct contact with your community. When you work with studios, they have the communities. You don't even know who's showing up to class before you step foot in the class. And if people don't come up and tell you their names, obviously now with Zoom, you can see everyone's names, which is also lovely. But it's changed what community means to a teacher. And I think that has empowered us, and it has gotten us excited about community. And for me, that's at the essence of yoga. Like, the reason I became a yoga teacher was because I genuinely, I wanted the connection. I wanted the community. I wanted to be surrounded by like-minded people. And for the first time since I started teaching, I have a very strong and beautiful and supportive community that I just never had before. So for me, that's been priceless.
Wow, lots of passion, Mariel. I love that. Yeah, everything sounds so passionate, but it's great. I mean, of course, but yeah, it's true. I mean, we are a good example, ladies. What do you think about us? Because like you were saying, we actually got certified during the pandemic. So we went completed a yoga teacher training online. So last summer, and we had to adapt very quickly to the, the massive shift of the online classes. And to be honest, I think we did okay, but we never set foot in a studio. I never taught in a studio. I don't think you did, Maria and Alicia. So for us, this became a new normal, teaching online via Zoom. And again, like you were saying, I totally relate to what you're saying, is that I feel like I have so much opportunities coming at me, but at the same time, it's a real struggle to build this community. So that's why such a nice initiative of Kuula, for example, of this virtual studio that is definitely helping us managing all the content, all the things that, of course, we don't want to spend time on it because we want to focus on our teaching, especially that we are new teachers, guys. I mean, this is, so yeah, I mean, if you Alessia and Maria can give a bit of your experience in the last 4 months of you ladies teaching online.
Yes. You want to go first, Ale?
Yeah. Yeah, probably because I'm a little bit different. I'm a little different case because I haven't started teaching yet outside of the world. As Maria and Shirin said, I'm kind of, I wasn't feeling ready. And probably because, as you said, online yoga world for teachers is a little bit discouraging nowadays. So I was like completely overwhelmed for all the things that I need to have figured out, like, my brand image, and I'm a designer. So actually, I'm also a little bit too much perfectionist. So everything is taking along to being completely realized as in my own dreams. So also you need to have a subscription to a digital platform to teach, and you also need to have a community and a schedule on your own website. So I was completely struggling with that. So actually I've been teaching to my family and neighbors and friends online as well, trying different platforms. But yeah, to be honest, I joined Kuula like 2 months ago. I was just browsing because out of curiosity. And this week I created the channel, and I really found out that this could be a really powerful tool for me to get started. So yeah, I think that I will definitely try to start there, because if I continue to wait, to wait the perfect moment, the perfect website, the perfect
Will never
email,
happen, the perfect moment.
yeah.
Let me tell you that in coaching, I mean, this is for any teacher out there listening, the only thing that's going to make it better is starting. Yeah. There is nothing, everything else is procrastination. Anything else, because we always assume if my logo looks professional, if my website looks professional, if this, that, and the other, in all the time that it takes you to get that sorted, you could have been out there teaching, getting the confidence, finding your voice. And the truth is, you don't need a subscription or a community to get started. What you need to do is you need to start teaching. Have that one class with that one student that becomes 2 students, and before you know it, becomes a community. But it is, I love that you're honest about it though, because we all do that. Yeah. It's like, until my website is perfect, and people, because there's that imposter syndrome that we're all faced with of, totally. I'm not qualified enough, I haven't trained enough, I haven't done this enough, I haven't done that enough, and if my website's not good enough, everyone will know. Let me tell you, You will feel that, unfortunately, to varying degrees. Like, I think that's part of the journey of a teacher, is that we have to face our fears and do it anyway. You know, it's kind of like, I know I'm scared, but we're all scared. I say this all the time. I'm always nervous before class. Always. I've taught thousands of classes by now. Every class that I teach, I'm still nervous. But I like to think that it's passion. You know, that fear, that it's excitement. It's the same
excitement,
feeling.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Maria.
You, Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that, you know, I agree with the things that we just share, and you know, we are digital babies at the end of the day. Like we started in the online world. For example, you know, just what Sirin was saying, that we did our training online. I taught my very first pose online. I taught, I think it was downward dog. I never teach before. I taught my first whole class online. And just kind of coming back to what you're saying, Mariel, and just like start teaching. And that's something that I really had in my mind. You know, as soon as I got my degree, I started teaching actually outdoors in a park. It was September here, it was allowed. And then after that, you know, I started online, and I cannot agree more with what you say about the amount of effort. You know, me and Shireen, we just kind of call each other and saying, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? So, you know, when we have questions, when we have to have a cry. Yeah, we had to have a cry about things like, this is not working, what's happening? So I do believe in, and obviously I used Kuula before, as well, as Shireen was saying. Shireen actually introduced Kuula to me in one of those calls, right? And yeah, I think it's a great tool. And kind of also coming back to what you're saying about, and wrapping the episode about this topic, right? Like how the yoga world and is kind of evolving constantly, and how has this shifted in this past year? I don't want to say months anymore, because it's been a year. It's just crazy. I actually kind of, apart from the yoga side, I work in kind of consumer behavior. So it's something that we've been tracking for so long, how consumers are changing completely their lifestyles, and how digital businesses are, you know, were able to make a point, were able to have a say through the pandemic. So yeah, I think for us, that kind of online experience is the first thing that we did. And I think, you know, we will discuss this, I'm sure, later in the episode now, but I'm sure there's something that's going to be here to stay forever, to be honest.
If I can sort of chime in there, there's a few interesting things about people that have trained and only taught online. And I find it interesting speaking with teachers that did the other way, so went from studios to online. And I think the challenge will come when studios reopen and when people can start teaching in person, because it's very different to teach to a camera to people than it is in person. The biggest difference being, back in the day, pre-COVID, pre-online, it was a sign of a new teacher to demo in class. Whereas online, you kind of have to demo. It's almost like your students are expecting you to demo, because they're kind of hearing you, but not really. So students are getting worse at listening, and they're spending a lot of time kind of looking up to the screen, which is also quite different. And I think it'll be interesting when we find the middle ground, when we start to see, you know, especially if all you knew was online, is to get that in-person experience, because it'll change the way that you teach in many ways, and vice versa. And I think this is where you guys have the advantage, is my teaching improved the first time I taught in front of a camera. So the first time I recorded one of my classes for YouTube, and you hear this last year with everyone that had to do it for the first time, it is icky. It is the weirdest feeling in the world to record yourself. Even worse, because you have to watch it later.
And watch it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's out there, you know, like in a class, if you say something and it's wrong, it just kind of goes out the window, because, you know, people hear it, they're like, did I hear that correctly or not? You've got some teachers that just blab on all the time, and you're like, do they even know what they're talking about? But now it's recorded. You know, now a lot of people are putting that into their libraries, and it really holds you accountable to what you are communicating to your students, but it also makes you a better teacher because of that, I think. And I think you guys have been trained in an interesting way. I would just say be mindful that because we demo so much online, if you do decide in the future that you want to teach at a studio, this is actually bizarrely a sign of being a new teacher. So really learn to cue without demoing. I don't know why that came to my head as you were talking, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
definitely.
the experience is different. And even whenever I teach online, I realize that more and more students, even like advanced students, or they knew the cues, they knew the sequences, they will look more instead of listening more and being in this nice experience of the flow. So yeah, definitely agree with that. And one of the things as well that personally I haven't really had the time to practice is to adjust students, really, because I'm not really looking into the camera so much, because like you were saying, Mariel, we are demoing, and yeah, for an hour straight.
That's, yeah. You know, there's really interesting conversations around this, and something that I'm quite passionate about. I trained with Jamie from the Yoga People, and he's very big on anatomy. He's an incredible teacher when it comes, he's a yin teacher, but I really, really loved his anatomy training because, and this is to each their own, but towards pre-COVID again, there were a lot of people who were arguing that hands-on adjustments aren't the best, because if you do not know your student's full history, their full body, more often than not, you could be forcing them into positions that could cause more harm than benefit. And I think for newer teachers that are less aware of how to adjust properly, there was this feeling of like, if I don't adjust, I'm not a real teacher. But they cause harm because they're going in there and not really knowing how to do it right. So for me personally, I rarely adjust in my classes, and I never did. For my personal belief in that, even for myself in classes, I rather a teacher cue me so that I can feel it in my body and know how to find the right feeling for me, because my body is different to theirs, rather than have someone touch me and kind of push me into that position. So to a degree, and as much as that fear is there that you cannot adjust, I would say, of course, the manual adjustments aside, the value in not demoing so much, and as you learn to cue a little bit better, and it will teach you how to articulate what you want to say better, because you cannot put your hands on them, which I think is a nice thing. But try as much as you can to look at your students, to go up and to try to see the screen a bit better. And actually, this is a great moment to mention that with Kuula, we've launched our player. Our player is there to replace Zoom. That was always the goal. And our feeling for that was that, you know, Zoom is fantastic, but it's not purpose built. It's low quality video. It's not, again, focused for what we need. So with our player, now that we've built the foundation of the player, our goal is very much around how can we improve elements of teaching. So everything from whether as a new teacher, you would come on to a more advanced teacher's class and help them assist in the same way that you would in large studios. And by being an assistant, you can sit there and watch the students and comment individually so that no one else can hear except for that student. And you would get the opportunity to then say, I've noticed that your hip is out to the side. Can you bring it in? And it will help you as a teacher to be able to do those cues where, as a new teacher, it's too much between the demoing and the trying to adjust, and the screen is like 2 meters away, so you're running back and forth. I mean, it's funny. I really hope someone does like a behind the scenes of what it's like to be a teacher, because it's manic. My computer screen is 13 inches. So when you think about, I wear glasses, I don't when I teach. So I mean, trying to see your students, your face is like, you're just like constantly like, okay, I think I can see you. And again, with Kuula's player, these are things that we're really exploring whether there's an auto rotation. So kind of like a book, you'd be able to see the students in full screen and have it slide from student to student, so that as you look up from your mat, you're not having to run up to the screen and be like, okay, let me adjust anybody, like, you know, who can I find that actually I can see what they're doing. Yeah. And I think that's where it gets really exciting. And that's where I think, you know, I love that it's sort of becoming like a teachers network. We just launched our Facebook group. It gives us the ability to, as a community, talk to each other and say, what do we need? What's challenging as a new teacher, and what would help me become a better teacher? Because right now I feel very much alone. And you know what, whether it's online or not, as new teachers, you feel alone. Like, I remember when I was a new teacher, where do you begin? Like, where do you begin? Because studios were like, you can't start in a studio unless you've had 3 years experience. How do you get those 3 years experience if you can't work in a studio?
If no one gives me the chance, of course.
Right? So, you know, I think we always have this struggle. And I think that is the benefit of being online, is that you can now be proactive, and it's not having to wait for a studio to let you. It's you taking the prerogative and being like, I'm going to teach even if no one shows up. If nobody shows up, I'll record my class and I'll save it, you know? And I think that's what will help you as a teacher. Even, and we have to learn to manage that ego. You know, you get to that class and nobody's there. It hurts, but you know what? Yeah, no, totally. You're like, this sucks. Why am I doing it? But then you show up again. And then you show up again. And sometimes it'll be one person, but if you can change that one person's life in some capacity, that's why we do it. That's the essence. That's really why we do it.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, so for sure. So yeah, so right now I've seen that you have been launching new features. So I'm a tech geek because I work for a tech company. So that's why I love Kuula, because you're evolving and you making our life much more easier. So both Maria and I, for instance, we have a website. So we try to engage our students to book directly with us. But we also like to have like a video library on another platform. And right now I've created a pass, a membership. So this is the newbie of 2020, and I'm so excited about that. So if you can tell us a bit more about that, so our listeners can, you know what to expect.
So let me paint the whole picture in terms of what I think most teachers want, and I'll tell you what Kuula has and where it's going. Because the reality is, our biggest challenge is that we are limited in how fast we can move, because we're still a relatively small team. But I have to say, considering that we started last March, we have been moving very fast. Our team has been working incredibly hard. I see, so within varying degrees, most teachers want either to teach live, either to have an on-demand library, or to do both. So within that mixture, what most teachers, perhaps more established teachers that have their community already, are looking at are platforms like MemberSpace that allow them to have that on-demand library linked to their website so that they can keep their brand identity. And then they link to Zoom and they link to PayPal through a booking system. I mean, quite complicated, but it works. Students have no idea how much we put into this. So what Kuula has right now is we have the capability to upload videos into an on-demand library, and you can organize them by series. You can sell them individually, you can sell them as a series, or you can sell them within a subscription. We just launched recurring subscriptions to replace passes. So passes were not recurring, but it was something that we just had to get out quickly. So we now have subscriptions. Subscriptions can be 1 month, 3 months, or 12 months. So obviously discounts within that. And you can offer only videos on demand, or you can offer videos on demand plus lives, with the ability to remove lives, like if you have a workshop or something that you don't want to include, and the ability to remove videos. So it's getting there, but it's not where I ideally would like it to be. So I have over 100 videos on Kuula. I mean, my on-demand library is like cray, but it's everything I've done for the last year, and it works for me. But obviously the next step in that is the ability to integrate that into my website, because here's again sort of my philosophy and what I always believed when building Kuula. having a marketplace, so when we talk about the more business terminology, all of us being on one platform can only help us, because that means it's not 50 of my students and 10, it now becomes, we've had over 3,000 students go through Kuula at one point or another. So that's like 3,000 students that could start, you know, that could become one of your students. And I need to say this because it comes up a lot. Do not get territorial over your students. That's not how it works. And it never, students can find you on Instagram. They can find you on your website. You can't hoard your students. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, if I come on Kuula, will I lose? Like, what if they find another teacher? They could find another teacher anyways. Like, that's not the mentality to bring into what you do. I think that's a very negative fear, scarcity mentality. So the marketplace is good, even if you're the most successful yoga teacher, because you will still have the potential to find new students. That will never change. I think that's where, when I say we're better together, we are better together, and the whole future of yoga, like, that's why I think collaboratives are going to be a huge part of what happens, because we need to bring our communities together. It's too much to do it alone. And the truth is, every one of my students practices with somebody else. Maybe it's Pilates, maybe it's bar, maybe it's another yoga teacher, maybe they teach yin, maybe they teach meditation, maybe they do breath work. I cannot cover all of that. Like, being that teacher that wants to do it all, don't go there. Like, don't go there. I tried it. No, like, no, you don't want to do it. So we know that Kuula has the value of a marketplace, but what's missing is the individuality. And we always promised that we would embrace individuality. So within the next 2 months, one of the biggest things we're working on is website integrations. The ability for you to take code and integrate it to your website so that you can have Kuula power the back end. But it's a double benefit, because you drive people to your website, we drive people to Kuula, more people in your classes, right? That's like the goal, the win. So that is where we're hopefully headed. People that have like member space, FYI for things like MemberSpace, and not sort of bashing the competition, but because we've done so much research, MemberSpace uses YouTube. So you have to upload all your videos to YouTube, add, you know, put them as private or whatever the settings are, and then link it to your website. The amount of admin between linking this to linking that, and then linking Zoom, and then trying to put it all together and book it together, it's a little bit chaotic, and it's not ideal, and it's YouTube at the end of the day. So you don't own your material. Like, you know, YouTube kind of controls everything that happens on YouTube. With Kuula, it's your videos hosted, like, it's all your content. So you get to do kind of whatever you want with it. It looks a lot better, and hopefully will allow you a lot of flexibility in how, like, you filter in terms of types of class, integrate it to your website, etc. So these are like the big goals for the next 3 months on Kuula. Is our player on the one hand, which I've been teaching all my classes on the player now because I have to test it. It had issues because it's new, but I had taught my last class on Friday, and it worked perfectly. So we're getting there, and I really do think I like it more. It's just like, it's aesthetically pleasing. It offers more flexibility in terms of how you see your students. And it's only going to get better. We're about to launch a Spotify button, so you can link your playlist. Oh, wow. They click the Spotify button and it opens up. Yeah, so it's going to make playing music and teaching. We're slowly getting there. So again, for people that are already supporting us, thank you. For people that are not there yet, like, come join us, because more people, yeah, drink the Kool-Aid. No, but the more people that we have kind of come together, it's more feedback. We've had over 400 teachers sign up on Kuula. Like, imagine how amazing it is to get insights from so many people from within the industry to help build a platform for this industry specifically. I think it's really cool. It's really exciting. And as a teacher, I like being heard. You know, it's nice. We have so many. The struggle is real, and it's nice to know that one, we can come together as teachers through the platform and talk to each other and just be like, what do I do about pricing? I feel really awkward charging. Like, who does donation based? How does it work for you? We need to learn from each other, because the truth is, it's all up in the air. You know, like, what's the best price point? Yeah, I get that question a lot. And to be honest, the response I've heard from most people is when you do donation based, it tends to offset. So some people can join for less, but some people will pay more, and you kind of get that middle ground. Always do donation based, because if it's just free, then of course no one's going to pay. But if there's the option to donate, somebody will.
It's about the value,
Yeah.
And it's something that I think, you know, coming from a commercial background, your time is money, and there is value in what you do, so charge accordingly. And you know, again, sorry to kind of jump in, but I just thought that this is such an important topic as well. Like when people ask how much you should charge, you know, I would like to respond how much you think they should pay, because it's that value and they have to pay for it. And I think, you know, me and Serene, we actually had a chat about this a couple of days ago and talking about free classes. And, you know, I think this is another huge topic, maybe for another episode, but I just wanted to agree with that, Mariel.
Yeah, the free conversation. And here's the thing, and maybe this is the beauty about what's happening in the industry, because we've been scared to look at ourselves as businesses for a long time. You know, again, the whole yogic philosophy, yoga teacher, it just doesn't sound good when you say I'm a business, and nobody wants to commoditize yoga either. But it really hurts us at the end of the day, because as teachers and as people that want to teach full time, if you don't look at yourself as a business, then you're going to be taken advantage of, realistically. So, I mean, we've always been sort of seen as independent contractors, and it kind of just puts a big sort of question mark. And we always relied on the studios to set the standard, and the studios paid very little. They have overhead and they have employees, and it makes sense. They've got a lot of things to cover. But I think now, as we start to create our own thing online, we have to get smart about what it means to run a business and when to give things away for free and why. So I do believe that, and you'll see this with any kind of business, even Kuula right now, we're free. Like, there is a moment where you need to entice people to practice with you, especially as a new teacher. Like, no one's going to just drop, you know, 10 pounds and be like, I'm just going to try some random person. Like, they kind of want to know what they're getting into, and maybe it's a little taster and it's a 20-minute video or a 10-minute video or a 30-minute video. As a rule of thumb, and I break it all the time, so I'm going to caveat that because I know I'm like naughty teacher. We shouldn't give away content for free that's more than 30 minutes. I do this, but it's because I have a lot of content. So sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there because it's like a year old, and, you know, let me just try to get some more people to see it. But kind of as a rule of thumb, if you're going to give something away for free, don't give the whole pie. Give like a little piece, and it's like a little taster, and then people can get a sense for what you're like. Same thing with subscriptions, and this is actually something that we are working towards, because we have discount codes but not the ability to offer like an intro period. With subscriptions, the standard that we're seeing across most people's websites is a 7-day free trial. People want that free trial, and maybe you lose them after those 7 days. I'm not gonna lie, I just like signed up for Now TV. I've got 14 days. I'm going to watch as much as I can, and then I'm going to cancel it.
And the 14 days, yeah.
But, you know, exactly. I'm like, how much like TV can I cram in? This is really not what I should be sharing. But so these are the things where I think we need to learn. Charge. You're so right. We are providing a service, and the reality is, you know, people, and I did this as well. We came online and we realized, you know, if we can have more people join our classes, we'll charge a lot less for it. But what we didn't realize was that those numbers would start to drop, because there was obviously this like online craze at the beginning of COVID where like classes were just, for me, it was amazing, because I was like, oh my God, so many people. I can teach one class and I'm good. But it dropped and it started to flatline, and I had set this standard of charging really little because I expected so many people to pay it. And then when it dropped a little bit, I was kind of, you know, I was back to square one of like, okay, I need to revisit my pricing. We all went through this, but I think we have to charge for our services, and you have to be smart about what that means for you. And it won't be the same. Don't compare yourself to other teachers, because I charge 18 pounds a month. And when I started thinking of that, even I was like, girl, that's like, you're like underselling yourself. But you'll find a lot of teachers do this with memberships, because they know that with a certain price point, they will get volume. that will equate to the amount of money they need to make each month. So as teachers, it's really good to say, I would like to make this much money a month, and work backwards. What do you need to charge and do? How many classes do you need to teach at that price point with how many students in order to make that amount? And it will help you figure out your offering. So chances are, if you're new, then do the donation-based or a set price of like £8. Like £8 a person, you want to keep that price point not high, not £15, because then that just doesn't make sense. But at a place, between £5 and £8 as a donation base, with the option to join for free, maybe. Have that flexibility, but know how many classes you need to be teaching, how many people you need to be drawing in order to make that end amount. And it took me a while to figure this out. I had to look at sort of my offering, and for me, it made sense to do £18 a month because of everything I was doing to kind of drive traffic to that, and it has been worthwhile for me as a teacher, but I know that won't be the same for everyone, and not everyone wants to do what I do. I record my classes, which means I demo a lot, which means that I don't always give students the one-on-one attention that they need, and I know that that's a disservice, and that's something that I want to start changing. So I'm only going to record some of my classes so that I can spend more time with my students, giving them that feedback. And you can charge more for that, obviously, because you're giving them that direct attention. So yeah, the pricing conversation is a huge one. It comes up so much, even within Kuula. People are always asking, how do I charge for my services, and what should I do? And I hope that we keep having this conversation, because nothing's set in stone and nobody has it figured out. Let me tell you, like it's an ongoing, we're constantly revisiting, seeing what works. But Kuula offers the flexibility, which I think is really nice, that you can charge per class, free, donation-based, or set fee. You can charge on a subscription, so it's included. We're about to release class packs, finally. Class packs, if you only teach live, is kind of the way to go for your live classes. So it commits students to, say, 5 classes for a discounted rate of whatever. And even if you do donation-based classes, class packs still work, because some students don't want to have to pay each time they join. They just want to have like credits. They just want to be able to go and practice when they want to. And so class packs are going to be a great one. And I think those should be out within the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, I mean, I totally relate to what you're saying. I mean, it's a whole topic, but again, it comes back from how we market ourselves, and it's so difficult because we just want to teach yoga, right? And it's difficult to find this value. And I guess, like you were saying, Mariel, the imposter syndrome that we are constantly having right now is that there's so many teachers out there online. So, and it's really bad to say, but we are comparing ourselves. Yeah, we are doing that because we are new teachers. And so we tend to maybe undervalue ourselves because those teachers are more experienced, even though they probably never taught online. So yeah, all those questions that comes around, but yes, I do agree. And thank you so much for the recommendation, and that we should definitely, always bring a value to our service. This is our time, and it's definitely.
Yeah, honestly, this comes up all the time, that the imposter syndrome and the fear around being a new teacher. The only thing I can say is you're not alone. But instead of comparing, and this was actually advice that was given to me ages ago, instead of comparing and feeling depleted that you're not as good or not as far, find things that inspire you. So, I always go online and I try to find people that I'm like, that's what I want to be like, or that's what I aspire towards. Julie Montague was my teacher, and I love her energy and her way of being. Yeah, Julie's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm like, I want to be like Julie. Like, not to say I want to be exactly like her. I want to be me. But like, she inspires me. Like, I love her energy, but I don't look at her and go like, oh my God, she's got 100 people in her classes. I've got 10, like I'm a loser. No, it's like, that's where it goes down and really doesn't help you. But it's more, I mean, anyone, there's a lot of people with incredible followings. I mean, here's the other problem. We're now so much online that we spend all of our time on Instagram, and Instagram is a joy sucker. Like my husband calls it the vortex. Like, you have to have really healthy boundaries around what you look at online, because I go through it. I look at things and sometimes I'm like, I'm just not good enough. I'm like, I'm not doing enough. And people are looking at me like, you're a mom, you just built a business, you're trying to be a yoga. Like, at what point is enough enough? And I think as new teachers, we have to step out of that scarcity mentality. There is room for all of us and more. Everybody has something very unique that they bring to what they do. Your goal as a teacher right now is to just do it. In the words of Nike, but seriously, just go out there, put yourself out there, teach that one class, teach your friends. That's how it always starts. Ask your friends to come to class, send an email to everyone you know, to your parents' friends, to start, because here's the reality. There is going to be a period, and I can't tell you how long that period is, but where you are molding yourself as a teacher. You are going to, I did this, and I remember ages ago, like, you're going to find teachers you love and you're like, I'm going to emulate them. And you're going to go teach and be like, oh, that did not work. And then you're going to find another teacher and be like, I'm going to steal their music. And then you're going to be like, oh, that didn't really work either. And you have to find yourself as a teacher. And that means, yeah, you take from other people, you find things you love that inspire you, and you combine it, but you make it you. It doesn't happen on the first day. Finding your authentic voice as a teacher, I'm still finding mine. Like, because I'm still learning as well. Like, I'm exploring what it feels like to teach without expectation. When you come into classes with expectation, when you come into class as a people pleaser, and let me tell you, as yoga teachers, most of us start that way. We want everyone to like us. We want everyone to love our classes. That's not how it works. If you talk to like marketing specialists, they'll tell you, you need to figure out what your ideal client looks like. Who are you trying to teach, and what are you trying to teach them as a teacher? Because when you're trying to be it all, you're not teaching anything, because I mean, what is, are you that anatomy teacher? Are you the creative teacher? Are you but also, what's the impact? Like, most of us, in my opinion, our students are a reflection of us. We are trying to teach people that are on a similar journey to us, and we've learned from that journey. So we're trying to impart the knowledge of that journey to other students. So when you look at your ideal client, you're kind of looking at yourself, is my personal opinion. It doesn't mean you're limited to that. It doesn't mean that, I can't teach men. My husband loves taking my classes. I can't teach HIIT classes. Like, I love doing those things, but really try to hone in on, why do you teach? You can't forget that, because every time that one person shows up to your class, the ego is going to take control, and you're going to forget why you teach. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm not good enough, I'm not popular enough, and like, no. You need to figure out who do you want to teach? Like, what's the vibe of your tribe? And those are big things that we don't spend a lot of time thinking about. And as new teachers, I would say, start there. Get really excited about, oh my God, I do have something to give, because you've lived your whole life until this moment. Everything you've learned in that whole life is what you have to teach. It's not the yoga class. It's not the 200 hours you just did. Those 200 hours taught you like the basics of like asana and breath work, but like the essence of yoga is really that journey, that return home to yourself. And whatever you learned on that journey is now what you have to impart on your students. So don't feel like you haven't done it long enough. You've been doing it your whole life, like just in a different way. And hold on to that, because yeah, we call them saboteurs, the inner critic. They're loud as yoga teachers. And there's a type that is drawn to being a yoga teacher. And it's usually the one that struggles with that voice. It's the one that wants to please. It's the one that wants to help others, but you can't help others until you've gone through that journey yourself. So come back to that each time. I think, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe that students will come to your class because they like us. It's not because they remember this specific sequence that we did and so on. It's just like they love the way we make them feel. And yes, this is something that we definitely need to remember. But just to pinpoint something is that and you will tell me, ladies, Mariel and Alicia, is that in the midst of everything, I feel like I'm feeling that we are going in too much, like, setting up a business or having that many students joining our classes, and we start forgetting that we are like baby teachers. I feel sometimes very disconnected from that, because like you were saying, Mara, I want to find my own voice as a teacher. And sometimes I feel like I'm spending too much time, figure out this tech thing, creating my newsletter. And I realized, I think it was like beginning of last week, oh wow, Serene, I haven't spent that much time creating my class and, all those things. So yeah, to come back to Kuula, and we'll wrap up with the last question to you, Mariel. Definitely, we are so happy that it's not the only platform existing. I had a look around, but with all the features that you're offering, it's a free membership for yoga teachers. This is taking a lot of work off our shoulders, and that way, and we will definitely it will definitely help new yoga teachers and people that are not used to the online this, and they're still struggling, because we look at maybe people like yoga teachers maybe over 50s. I don't want to say that they're not good with online with technology and so on, but yeah, I'm sure they're struggling. So yeah, definitely. So for the last topic, Mariel, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the future of online yoga, the classes? Do you think at some point the online classes, the virtual studios will replace the yoga on studios? Or because lately I've been seeing that studios have been adjusting to that, offering membership both on real and online. So how do you think this will evolve? I mean, even though we're not sure of much right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, but if it were my guess, if we can get to a point where the world is back to some kind of normal, I don't think this will happen anytime soon, if I'm honest. And I think people will be slightly more germophobic. Back in the US, for example, they used to cram people into studios like sardines, and you would just be like throwing sweat on each other, and it was just part of the yoga experience. It was like we're all in there and we're all super packed. I don't know that will come back anytime soon, but I do believe, I don't doubt for a second, I think we're all longing to get back to being able to practice together in some capacity. I think small studios have been hurt really badly. I worry a lot about small studios, and I don't know. I know that some have closed. I don't know what's in store for the rest of them. Bigger studios have adapted. They've leaned on bigger teachers to kind of help them through this. The hard thing about studios and online is that it really doesn't make sense for the teacher, but you obviously do it because you want to work for that studio in person. So as long as that remains, I think that'll continue to be the case. What I see with the future of yoga is I think teachers will no longer work 25 classes at different studios. I think they'll teach 5, 6, depending on what they can get, and then focus on their own community. So you work with the studios to kind of build your community and to kind of get that experience, and obviously because we like the studio environment as well, but I think it's going to be a mixture of both. I think one of the biggest advantages that I've seen from the shift online is that when you have recorded content, that's money that you make passively. That's money that you've recorded it, you've done it, it's there, someone pays for it, awesome. So that's a new revenue source for us as teachers. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think people will always have on-demand content, again, as an extra for their community, whether it's a full-on subscription, like monthly subscription, or pay as you go, or whenever you want to try a couple classes. I've got a library of like 15, or I don't see that changing. And I do imagine most teachers teaching live online to some degree. I think there's going to be a balance. It's going to kind of ebb and flow, because the reality is, and for bigger teachers in particular, I guess, the online world is so much larger. So we fear that there's so many teachers online. Let me tell you, there are millions of people looking for classes. There are a lot of people out there. So it's exciting. Like, I've connected with people in Malaysia, you know, like I have people practicing with me in the US. I would have never had that opportunity before, and it just gives you so much more potential as a teacher. So I think there's going to be a balance. I don't doubt for a second that we're gonna really enjoy going back to an in-studio class. It could be in the future that you have more of what Patrick Beach has done with the commune, where like you have teachers coming together and creating their own studios, you know? Like it's that the opportunities have grown. And I think being a teacher as a full-time job has much more potential than it used to. I think in the past, being a part-time teacher was normally you always had to have some other way of making money, whether it was you know, a partner or you know, a job or independently financial, like whatever, you have your money. Being a yoga teacher, you don't make that much money. At least you didn't back in the day. And I think now that has shifted, not to say it's like easy for everyone. Like we're all really trying to figure out how we make this work. But because we're starting to look at it as more of a business, because we'd love to live our passion. I don't know if you guys have heard this expression, but it came out during COVID, a passion economy. And it's the first time where people can actually make a living off of the things that they love to do. And I think we're so lucky to live in an age where that is possible. Because, you know, you look at our parents and for them, like yoga teacher, like I want to be a yoga teacher when I grow up. They'd be like, I'm not spending that much on your education for you to become a yoga teacher. But it's very different now. And I think if there's anything that can get you excited about what you do, live your purpose, live your passion. Like that is the dream. It's not how many students you have. It's not all the other noise that comes into it. It's the fact that we can do this. And I think that's exciting, and I think that's the future of yoga, is that we can really share something so special with our communities that have transformed our lives. We do this because we believe in it, right? We do this because we all experience some kind of transformation, and we want to share that. We're like, oh my God, like this is great. Like we're still in it. It doesn't mean we're all, you know, we've reached enlightenment, but we have something that we feel like, man, I want to give back. And that's purpose, right? It's talent plus giving back. And for us to be able to live our purpose is a cool thing. So keep at it.
Right, like without borders, like you were saying, it's without borders now online. It can be like, you can be teaching to someone in Asia, someone in any continent, really. And actually, it's so funny that you mentioned Patrick, because actually we are we trained with them, Patrick and Carling.
No way! Oh my God! Yeah, so they're wonderful. Yeah, they're really, really lovely, and they have a phenomenal community. So they're doing a really great job, and it's so. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Awakening.
Awakening. But here's the other thing with Kuula, and this also makes me quite happy with what we're doing. Like our goal in terms of a business is we want to follow the life cycle of a teacher. So we want to be able to create all of the tools that follow you from a new teacher to an established teacher to a teacher of teachers. So everything that the commune is doing and taking online, like our goal, our dream is to be able to cater to those solutions so that not only do we have classes, but as a community of teachers in one place, we can then find teacher trainings. We can then find retreats. We can then find workshops. There's no one place. Like, does anyone, like, if you're looking for a retreat, where do you go? Like, I have so many people that contact me, like, have you heard of anything? As if it's like in the wild. So for me, I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we had one place that as teachers and as the students, you know, as our students as well, that can find all of these things and that we can cover each other, you know, in the same way that you cover at studios, that you can cover online. Some people have memberships and need to keep their people, their community engaged. So wouldn't it be great if you could ask someone to come into your online world? And for them, it's exposure. For them, it's like, I get to meet new students. It's exactly the same as a studio environment. So Kuula, it's all about the teacher life cycle and figuring out what do we need at every point of that journey, so that we can focus on what we love to do. Let's not spend, and Serene, you nailed, I am so bad with expressions. I'm like, you hammered the nail on the head. I don't know what it is, but you hit the point. We spend so much time trying to figure out how to get that community that we don't spend enough time thinking about, like, what are we giving to that community? It's like, how can I sell? But it's more about if you're authentic and if you really bring your heart into what you do. Yes, there's a very unfortunate need to sell at the moment because we're all we've got. We are a one-man band as a business, but hopefully that'll start changing. And if Kuula can take away the stress around admin, here's a big thing for teachers as well. On Kuula, you can download the CSV file of all of your students. So it doesn't mean that you lose touch with your students. It just means that you're in touch, but not having to deal with the admin. Talk to them about the things you want to talk to them about. Tell them about your classes. Tell them about your blog posts. Tell them about what it is that you want to share with them, but don't worry about having to send Zoom links and yes, I received payment and here's this, that, and the other. Like that's where Kuula wants to kind of take away all of the annoying stuff as a teacher so that you can focus on the things that count.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful. Ali and Mariel, do you want to add something or ask one last question maybe to Mariel?
Ale, do you want to?
Yeah, I feel so inspired right now. Actually, I'm kind of thinking about all this information and, opinions. And yeah, I think that I agree. I definitely agree because I'm really a progress-oriented person. So from the work to yoga to life, I kind of hope that this world will change based on all the different things we're living, especially because of this pandemic. So actually, for example, I'm working smart working, and I think that this will let me learn a lot of things, a lot of new things for my job. And actually, I'm more stronger, and I gained autonomy, for example, and I have more skills. And I would like to link with our latest post on the page, which is challenges became skills, because for us maybe this wouldn't have been possible before, and actually we have a new opportunities, a new door open, and I think that this is really big. This is a really big thing, and not only on yoga but on everyday life. So I definitely hope that these two things could coexist. Like live classes in person and live classes online. I think there is space for both. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that I think it's the right moment for yoga businesses. And I think we are very lucky in the sense that we have the time in our hands to develop. I think everyone now wants a little bit more, is thinking about yoga. They want yoga to kind of help them ease into their lives. And again, going back to what you said, Mariel, about the community, I think is stronger than ever. And a very clear example, and I know we keep saying this, is us three. We actually never met in person. Obviously, me and Serene, we did, but we haven't met Ale in person. We actually come from the training. So we met through Patrick and through Carlin. And that sense of community, I think that is, for me, the biggest learning of 2020. And I see that there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming from the yoga world, from the yoga community in 2021. And we are part of it.
I feel like 2021 is going to be a great year for us yoga teachers. I have no doubt.
I love that. No, I agree. And I love community. Like that's really it. It's changed. COVID's changed how we perceive community and how we value community and how we engage with and how we show up. It's all about community. I would say probably my word for 2021 is community.
And Kuula means community, right?
It does.
Yeah, I wanted to ask this.
I love it. Beautiful way to end this. Yeah.
This was not prepared.
Yeah, so let's. So yeah, for listeners, so if you want to find out more about Kuula TV, you just need to go to the website or the Instagram page. So anyway, we'll link everything on the description. So this podcast will be available on audio and on YouTube so that everyone can see our beautiful and happy faces, because I feel like there has been beautiful energies, and it's good that this podcast is also video so we can see ourselves, like, talking with hands and everything.
And all the plant stuff,
Yeah, exactly. The greenery.
Yeah, backgrounds. No, it's great. So just to resume in maybe a couple of points, Mariel, about Kuula TV, do you mind just giving a...
Yeah, so Kuula TV right now is free for you to use. I believe it'll be free for the next couple of months as we continue to develop our product. It gives you all of the tools that you need to streamline the process of either streaming live or having your recorded content. It's a very attractive website. I feel like I have to say that because UI...
Very pretty.
It is. It's also, the user journey is nice. So for students and for teachers, it's a much simpler way to join a class. You're not fumbling with your logins or, Zoom passwords and people in your lobby that you need to add before you can even start your class. It makes the process seamless. We have some great features releasing soon. I talk about Zoom, but our player is now live. So please do come check it out. I would say as teachers, like, if nothing else, research your options. We get so stuck in how we do things, but there are a lot of tools, and maybe it's not Kuula. There are other platforms out there, although I think Kuula is going to be the best. And it is the best. So I hope that you'll join us. More than anything, we have a wonderful support team. We've got 6 teachers, including me, on the Kuula team. So this is really a built by teachers for teachers, and very community-driven platform. So thank you guys for your support, and yeah, I look forward to having you guys on Kuula.
Thank you so much, Mariel. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to have you in this podcast. And thank you, ladies, for such a great chat.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
One day we'll be able to see each other in real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't wait.